What's up, y'all? Roy here, and you were listening to the Clems with a Z podcast. Today's episode is kind of a reaction and a reflection. I think a lot of my episodes are that. This whole podcast is that. But the theme of it comes from this idea of having to say something, or like it's hard to say something. And it started, I was listening to this podcast. It was just two men talking, and one of them says, being a man is hard. And I'll be honest with you, my first reaction, I kind of wanted to roll my eyes. Like I felt it in my body. Like, here we go again. And there's a part of me that like I wanted to throw up in my mouth a little. Because I've heard that line before, and it wasn't from men trying to be honest, but influencers and pastors, these alpha male dude bro types, who wrap that sentence in this weird mix of like self-pity, fake depth, and unprocessed anger and hurt. Like they're not actually trying to talk about feelings, they're just trying to build a brand off of them or like reclaim some stage they feel like they've lost or that was theirs. I don't know, but right after he said this, the next guy said this thing. He said that maybe it's hard to be a man because we're paying the debt of a toxic patriarchy that came before us. And that landed with me. That made me stop because I do feel something. There is something hard about being a man today and in the past, every day. And it's not in this like boo-hoo kind of way, but in this really complicated, tangled up kind of way. Like you want to speak, but you don't trust your own voice. Like you feel pain, but you're scared of what it sounds like coming out of your mouth because you don't want to be lumped in with those guys because people have been hurt by men. And maybe you were even one of them once because you're not trying to hijack the conversation. Damn it, you're still human. You still bleed, you still feel. And I want to sit here and work with this tension, trying to say something that already feels loaded even before it begins. Because it's hard to be a man. Yeah, I said it. And yeah, in a way, it feels gross. But I want to talk about it, why and anyway. Because I think one of the reasons why this is so hard to talk about is because most of us were handed a script about what it means to be a man. And it was simple and shallow and loud and silent all at once. Be strong, be stoic, be the leader. Don't cry, don't talk too much, don't be too sensitive, don't be too anything really, except maybe successful or decisive or useful. And in the church, the script gets supercharged. You are the head of the household, the spiritual leader, the protector, the provider, the voice of reason, the decision maker. But here's the part that's harder to admit. Because we were also told, explicitly or not, that we were in charge, that women were under us, that their role was to follow, support, and submit. And it wasn't really just about leadership, it was about ownership. Women became responsibilities, objects of temptation, rewards for obedience, things to guard, things to win, things to wait for. And that messes with you, right? Because if you're taught that your worth is tied to leading, conquering, or taking, then how do you not become entitled, right? That script didn't just hurt us. I believe it trained us to hurt, to puff out our chests, and to silence our partners, to feel superior, to dominate spaces, whether their voice or with their theology or with their fists. And for some of us, I don't think we ever wanted that role, but we played it because we thought we had to, or because we thought that's what it meant to be respected or loved, quote unquote, godly. So, yeah, when I say being a man is hard, I don't mean poor me. I mean, this is the load we inherited. This is the mold that we were shoved into, kicking and screaming or not. This is the programming we've been trying to overwrite ever since. Some of us have. And if I'm being honest, this is where it gets complicated for me because I don't know if it was how I was raised or what I saw in my father or the friends I surrounded myself with. But I never have felt fully identified with the puffed up, aggressive version of manhood. The chest out, take what you want, dominate the room type of guy. That was never me. I was never my dad. I've said this many times, I'll say it again. My dad was a loving, supportive man. My grandfather, the same, was gentle and steady. The older men that I looked up to in my life, especially early on, weren't loud or controlling. They weren't perfect, but they weren't the caricature. They were soft spoken, kind, faithful, and present. So part of me grew up thinking, in a way, maybe I'm safe from all this. Or maybe I wasn't formed by that toxic script after all. But that doesn't mean that I didn't absorb the messages. And that doesn't mean that I didn't pick up the cues from the culture around me, that leadership meant being right, that emotions made you less, that women were there to follow or please or be protected, but rarely partnered with. There's this weird, like, in between feeling I've carried for a long time. Like, I wasn't one of those men, but I was still formed in the same system that made them, still benefiting from it, and I'm still trying to unlearn it. So here we are. I think a lot of us are waking up to the fact that this old script didn't work and doesn't work, that it never really worked. We're seeing firsthand the damage that all of this caused to women, to kids, to communities, and to ourselves, which is often harder to admit, right? But at the same time, the loudest voices that are trying to reclaim quote unquote manhood right now are not pointing us toward healing. They're shouting into microphones about how men are being silenced, attacked, how the world is anti male, how emotions are okay, but only if they make you tougher. And reminds me of that Ron Swanson bit where he says crying is only acceptable at funerals in the Grand Canyon. Or emotions are only okay if they lead to dominance, only if they justify reclaiming power. They've taken what they call vulnerability and turned it into a freaking marketing strategy. And a lot of these voices aren't just these alpha male dude bro influencers. They're pastors and they're screaming it from pulpits. I've heard it in messages constantly and even the services leading up to Father's Day. They call it God's design, quoting Paul like it's a battle plan, telling men that we were made to rule, made to lead, made to speak for God, but not necessarily with God. And when that kind of masculine insecurity gets wrapped up in this religious language, it's like it almost becomes untouchable. Because now, if we question this script that they've created, it's not just rebellion, it's heresy. So now you have the whole weight of heaven is behind this demand to man up. And so, yeah, when I hear that stuff, God, it does make me want to throw up because it sounds like honesty on the surface, but underneath it's the same old power structure, the same old narrative, the same, it's just dressed in theology instead of testosterone. But here's the twist. Some of what they're saying, I feel it. I recognize the loneliness, the pressure, the confusion. And that's what makes it so dangerous because it's not all nonsense. This all starts from something true. The thing is, though, it just gets twisted into something loud, fragile, and cruel because that's the easiest thing. So now there's this battleground. And I don't mean this culture war nonsense crap. I mean this internal one. The one inside men, like me, like a lot of us, who are trying to speak with a little bit more tenderness in a world that's confusing tenderness with weakness and mistaking silence for strength. We're trying to reclaim emotion without reclaiming entitlement, trying to say I'm hurting too without centering ourselves in someone else's pain. We're trying to say I'm tired without weaponizing our exhaustion because it's happening. We're trying to feel without performing it. But man, in that space and saying it, it just feels like a minefield. And it feels weird talking about this. It feels risky talking about this. Like I'm waiting for someone else to roll their eyes and go, here we go. Another man trying to make his feelings the main character. And I get it. I do. I've been in those rooms too. Been in these spaces, listened to interviews and interviews here that I've held on this podcast, filled by women who've been hurt by men, not once, not twice, but consistently, by boyfriends, pastors, fathers, husbands, leaders, strangers. And when that pain comes up, it should be honored and it should be taken seriously. But then I sit there and I want to say, yeah, I know, I get it. I hurt too, but it feels like walking into a fucking minefield because I'm not him, but I'm still a him. Does that make sense? A him, right? And in moments like that, it feels like I have to pay some debt for all these fucking idiots. Like I have to carry the tab for every man who've lied, manipulated, dominated, ghosted, or gaslit. Like I have to prove I'm not one of them before I even open my mouth. And I don't want to center myself in someone else's pain. I really don't. But I also want to live and I want to feel. And some days I just want to say out loud, this is hard. Being a man is hard. Being a man who feels is hard. And trying to say that without sounding like a victim or a jerk is even harder. So most times, like most of us, we hold it in. We sit in the room and I listen and I just pay the bill and I bleed quietly. But I don't think that's healing for me or for anyone. And so here's something else, something that's pressing on me lately and why I want to continue talking about this. Well, one of the reasons is it's June. It's Men's Health Month, Mental Health Month, a time that we're supposed to raise awareness around men's physical and mental well being. But awareness really only matters if we actually talk about the pain that the men are in, because the numbers don't lie. I saw this one study, and it said in 2023, over 49,000 people died by suicide in the U.S. That's one person every 11 minutes. And it said nearly 80% of those deaths were men. That's a man dying by suicide roughly every 13 minutes. That's 90 men a day. And what really guts me about this is most of them didn't reach out. Fewer than 1 in 5 men who die by suicide had received any mental health treatment in the year before their death. That's not just a statistic. That's a script playing out to the very end. The one that says, don't talk, don't feel, don't need, don't be weak. So when I say this is about more than feelings, when I talk about the silence, the shame, the fear of sounding like one of those guys, I'm not talking about something abstract. I am talking about men dying every single day. And that's why feel the need to say something, to continue this conversation. Not to be dramatic, not to hijack the moment, but because silence is a slow death. And maybe speaking awkwardly, imperfectly right now, maybe is a small form of survival. So when I say that this script we've inherited is dangerous, I don't mean theory. I mean this script kills men. And in a month focused on men's health, that is a truth we can't drown out. And I've seen it, not just in numbers, but in boys, in real life and in real time. As a teacher and a mentor and a camp counselor, I've seen boys full of emotion with no way to release it, no language, no map, no safe place to land. Just two roads they think they're allowed to take: solitude or aggression. Not because they're angry kids, not because they're bad or broken, but because they were never taught how to feel. Because the adults in their lives, parents, teachers, pastors, coaches, told them, maybe directly or indirectly, don't cry, don't be weak, figure it out. And so they shove it down until it becomes something else. Something heavy, something loud, and something lonely. And that's where a lot of this started to hit me in these classrooms. I saw boys trying to be tough before they even knew what toughness was. I saw boys get told to stop crying before they ever learned how to say why they were crying in the first place. I can still remember this one boy. It was my first year teaching, and we were sitting together at his desk trying to work out some math problems, and he was just losing it. He wasn't misbehaving. He wasn't acting out. He was trying. He was trying to figure out the problem. He wanted to get it right, but he kept getting it wrong and couldn't see why. And the frustration started to boil over until he was crying. But even while he cried, I could hear him whispering to himself, I can't cry. I can't do this. I have to stop. I need to stop. And man, it just hit me so hard because he wasn't upset that he was getting things wrong. He was upset that he was feeling like the crying itself was the failure. Like letting it out would make everything worse. Like whatever happens, he had to shove it down. Be strong, be silent, be a man. And this kid wasn't even 10. Like, that's crazy, right? I can't be the only one that sees that craziness about that, right? And that moment has stuck with me because I think it shows that this isn't just a men's issue. This isn't just about healing grown-ups. This script starts really early. This debt starts young. So yeah, when I say I'm paying for the idiots, I'm not just talking about some grown men and microphones and pulpits. I'm talking about a whole system that teaches boys to swallow their tears before they even understand their pain. And maybe I'm speaking now so that kid won't have to spend the next 20 years trying to unlearn what he was taught that day. Watching kids stuff emotions that they didn't even have to have words for it yet. Ugh. You just see the anger build, not just tantrums, but resentment. Like the world already had them figured out before they even got a chance to figure it out for themselves or a chance to be human. And I would see the quiet ones, the ones who wanted to hug you at the end of class, but weren't sure if it was okay. The ones who got teased for being too sensitive or weird or not like the other boys. And then I saw boys full of emotions. Not bad kids, not violent kids, just boys who had no idea what to do with everything building up inside of them, with no healthy outlet, no language, no model. So it came out, like I said, in solitude or in aggression, not because they're trying to hurt someone or break something, but because they were never taught another way. And I tried, but they didn't. They weren't taught by the adults in their lives, the ones who said, man up, stop crying, or walk it off. And I think what breaks my heart the most is this, that some of these boys were already paying for the idiots, already carrying the weight of a masculinity that had nothing to do with them, just inherited damage. passed down like a family heirloom no one asked for. So when I say this stuff matters, when I say I want to speak it out loud, when I say maybe the way I'm saying it is different, it's not just for me, it's for them. I still see that boy and the countless others in my mind. It's for them. It's for who they are now and who they might still become if we give them something better than this tired old narrative and this stupid script. And I don't know if this episode gave you a clean conclusion. I don't know. Honestly, it didn't give me one either. But what I know is there is something powerful about saying it out loud, not yelling it, even though I did kind of raise my voice, not preaching it, just speaking it in my voice, in my way. So I'm not trying to fight for some throne of manhood. I'm not here to take a side in some masculinity war. I'm not even here to be the loudest man in the room. I just wanted to say something, especially this month, especially since it's been Father's Day, but especially because it's been living in me for a while now. This weird ache about what it means to be a man in a world that's noisy, reactive, and confused. I guess I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring, not to argue, but to add, not to claim authority, but maybe offer some presence. Not here to defend, but to say, like, hey, I'm here. I feel this too. Maybe you do too. And I do believe that how we speak matters. Maybe that's why I'm saying this is different, not better, not perfect, not real, lived in, tentative, kind. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the kind of masculinity I want to live into. The kind that makes room instead of taking it, and the kind that holds space instead of hogging it. That doesn't force itself in, throwing elbows, making sure you see the power. The kind that doesn't need to be right, just willing to be honest. And I'll be real with you, I don't know if I have all the answers. I'm not even sure if I know the questions some days. It seems like, but I do know if it seems like I know more about what I don't want to be than what I do want to be. But maybe that's the part of becoming. Maybe that's how it starts. Not with declarations, but just with clearing the space. So if you're listening and you feel any of this, whether you're a man trying to speak or a woman in a man's life just trying to get him to think, or maybe you're someone who's been hurt by the way men have been spoken before, thank you. Thank you for holding this space with me and for letting me try. Maybe the next version of strength isn't loud. Maybe it's tender. Maybe it's awkward. Maybe it's this. Just showing up, just saying it, and staying open. And maybe if I can say it here, now, like this, and maybe one day, they'll believe they can too. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Clemens with a Z. This one felt like a heavy one, but it's also, I think, one of the honest ones I've ever made. If you felt something while listening, if it stirred something up, if it made you uncomfortable, or maybe you feel a little less alone, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out anytime at clemenswithaz@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at clemenswithaz podcast. And hey, if you're a man listening to this, you ever felt this tension, this ache, this minefield of trying to feel something without being punished for it? I see you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're just human, and you're not alone. If episode meant something to you, please consider rating, reviewing, liking, subscribing to the show. It helps more people find these conversations and maybe find themselves in them. And if you want to support the podcast in a tangible way, you can head over to clemenswithaz.com, grab some merch, or you can find the link to the GoFundMe in the show notes and on my Instagram bio. As always, just a channel. I ain't the source. But if the messages moved through me in a way that helped you, then maybe that's what I was here for. So until next time, keep showing up, keep staying open, and maybe just maybe, keep making space for the next generation to speak before they have to heal. Peace.